Hey there, this is going to be a brief lecture covering the actual hearing parts of the ear. Remember that the ear is doing double duty. We're turning sound waves right into nervous transmission, but also there's going to be a section that's going to help with balance and our position sense. Go ahead and open up the lecture. I believe this is slide 97. It'll be the first slide covering the ear. You with me? Great. We'll start here. This is going to be a brief overview of the three main parts of the ear. We'll start up here. The outer part here is going to be the external ear. All we're doing here is funneling sound waves down to the middle ear. This is going to be another part in here. The external here is of course filled with air, and the middle part of the ear is going to be filled with air. After that we go to the internal part. All of this is going to be fluid filled. The last one over here, we can come back down here, this is going to be the vestibulocochlear nerve. This guy we're going to split into two parts, the cochlear part for the hearing, the vestibulo for the actual balance part. Let's do the external ear real quick. There's really only two things I care about. One is the external ear, the actual funnel-shaped part is going to be called the auricle. Next, remember what bone we're dealing with. All of this is going to be going through the temporal bone. Remember that really thick rocky part? That's the petrous region of the temporal bone. So the hole going through it from the outside is the external acoustic meatus, or meatus, however you want to say it. Auricle up here, this is going to be the meatus. We're going to start moving now into the middle part of the ear. The next thing here is our first membrane. There's actually going to be three of these, but this is going to be the largest. This one here is the tympanic membrane. Of course, the common name of this is going to be the eardrum. This guy is going to transmit pressure waves from the meatus right out here into the air-filled middle ear. However, note we've got some very fancy bones coming up. Here's the temporal bone, all of this green region. All of this is going to be buried in that petrous part. Let's keep on going through the tympanic membrane. Delicate, funnel-shaped. Yeah, sure, you can actually break this guy, but it will repair pretty quickly. The other thing we can note is this. There's going to be our cerumen produced by the glands in there. I'm going to make a note of this. One of the things I'm going to try to do is sneak ahead for the next couple of chapters and figure out part of the immune system. This is really the first example. We're going to split the immune system into specific and non-specific immune responses. This is part of the non-specific response. This guy is just a substance that will simply stop the growth of bacteria. We're going to see this crop up several times. This is a great example. Now into the middle ear. This guy is another air-filled cavity. It's called the tympanic cavity. This guy, though, transmits the sound waves through the teeny tiny bones, the auditory ossicles. Let's find a good picture. Let's keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. I like this picture. So once again, out here is the external acoustic meatus. There is our tympanic membrane. All of this region in here, this is going to be the tympanic cavity. You can see the label down there. We've got to get the sound waves from this eardrum here into this next membrane called the oval window. We're going to do this using these three teeny tiny auditory ossicles, these really small bones. The first one here is called the malleus. This guy kind of looks like a hammer. Another fancy name for a hammer is a mallet. This is the incus right here, the next one. This is actually going to be called the anvil. Hammers hit on anvils. And this one down here, this is of course the stapes. It looks like a stirrup. These guys will do two things. One, of course, they'll transmit the sound waves from here to here. The other thing is they amplify the sound waves. You can see the size of this membrane here is a lot bigger than this one. The other thing they do is this. You'll notice we have some muscles here. I'm not too concerned about the names of the muscles. I really want you guys to understand the function. This is actually a protective reflex. Loud sounds will set off this reflex. Go back, check out your reflex arc. These guys are the effector for this reflex. They'll actually tighten up and stop these bones from sending too powerful sound waves. They'll protect the inner part of the ear from loud sound damage. Next, you can note this. This is the auditory tube. This is an open airway, or at least when you're not sick, down to the back of the throat or the pharynx. This auditory tube is meant for equalization of pressure. We've got outside air here, but this is almost a contained cavity. One of the things you can't do is you can't go up a mountain. Air pressure is reduced here, but not equalized here. You guys have all done this. You've been in a plane where you're going up or down, and you simply have to swallow or go ahead and hold your nose and blow. You'll equalize the pressure in here. You'll open it up. Of course, when you get a cold and this is all blocked up with stuff, then you can't equalize the pressure here. And that's when you kind of can't hear right. Everything sounds muted. Next, what we're going to do then is we're going to transmit our sound waves, tympanic membrane, through our ossicles, and then into this next membrane. This guy is called the oval window. I guess because it's oval, and that's pretty obvious. What we're doing now is transmitting our sound waves, and we're going to call this now a pressure wave. Why? Because this is air filled, and all of this internal ear is going to be fluid filled. The part of this that really confuses students is the kind of nomenclature. We've got to worry about what these bony parts are, the membranous parts are, and which fluid is in which section. So let's go find a good figure we can use for this, and we'll start there. Let's go with this, even though this isn't my favorite figure. What we've done here is we've cut out the actual bony bits we need. Please note, all of this is actually surrounded by that petrous part of the temporal bone. We've just taken out the bits here which we care about. All of these fancy tubes here and then over here, these guys look like a labyrinth. Remember what a labyrinth is? It's a fancy maze. Since it's made out of bone, these are actually going to be hollow areas of the bone. This entire structure is called the bony labyrinth. Inside here, though, there's going to be a fluid-filled, membrane-sealed tube. And this is another complicated system of tubes. You can see all of this pink stuff in here and going through here. This is going to be called the membranous labyrinth. The bony labyrinth is just the bone on the outside. This is the membranous labyrinth going through all of this. Notice here the tube does not fill the bony labyrinth. You can see how they're trying to show you up here. This is going to be a smaller tube going through a big opening. All of this, inside and outside the membranous labyrinth, is going to be filled with fluid. Inside the tube, it's going to be endo, lymph. You know what endo means, and inside. Lymph is just another fancy word for fluid. Outside, between the walls of this membranous labyrinth and the actual walls of the bony labyrinth, there's going to be another fluid, and this of course is going to be perilymph. Next, we got to divide this into two parts. Everything on the left of here, all of this stuff, this is going to be your semicircular canals. The actual open bony part is still part of the bony labyrinth. It's called the semicircular canals. Is there a membranous labyrinth in there? Yes, there is. This section is called the semicircular ducts. We'll do that in a while. But what I care about first is this over here. This is going to be the structure for hearing. Once again, what is the name of this part of the bony labyrinth? And it's right there. The cochlea. So the cochlea is just this section of the bony labyrinth. It's the hollowed out bit of bone. What about the name of the duct in here? Well, that's the same kind of deal. This part of the membranous labyrinth, that's going through the cochlea is simply called the cochlear duct. Just to make sure we get that. We have the membranous labyrinth is the bony bit. The membranous duct is all of these sealed tubes in here. Inside the duct is going to be endolymph. Between the duct and the bony bit is going to be the perilymph. This part of the bony labyrinth is going to be the semicircular canals. This part of the membranous labyrinth is the semicircular ducts. This part of the bony bit is going to be the cochlea. This part of the membranous bit is the cochlear duct. There's a couple of questions on the lab which a lot of people have got wrong. That should help you out. Now we've sorted out the actual overall arrangement here. We're going to go back and look at this cochlea in some detail. The cochlea, it looks like a snail shell. It's got this great curved shape here. It's one of the neatest parts of all the bones. The entire thing is called the cochlea, but then we got two other names. I'm going to sneak ahead 2 slides. The tip here, where we kind of come to this point, this gets a great name. It's called the helicotrema. If I slide back a couple of pictures, there it is. This apex right there, the helicotrema. Going back to this one, this inner part here, it has a really bizarre shape. It looks like a snail shell that's been completely kind of beaten up. This spiral bit here is called the modiolus. Now, what we've got to figure out before we go any further is just the basics of how this works. This picture here is not the best. I also don't want to use this one yet. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to slide ahead a bunch of slides. We're going to go past that one. We're going to go past this one. We're actually going to go right here. Got this slide? What we've done here is we've cheated. What we're going to do is simply kind of start unrolling the cochlea. We can't do this in real life, but it's going to show us how this whole process works. So what we're doing here is just unrolling the cochlea a little bit. Let's go and orient ourselves. This line right here is showing you bone. So this entire thing made out of the bony part is of course the cochlea. This pinky purple bit in here, that is going to be part of the duct. So you'll see the label here, the cochlear duct. For now, ignore this purple line. We'll get to that in a second. Next, this blue fluid here, this is going to be perilymph. You can even follow it around all the way there. Inside the cochlear duct, this is going to be filled with endolymph. And this guy right here, it's sealed. Now we go back over here. There is our auditory ossicles. They're vibrating, sending pressure waves into right up here. It sends the pressure waves into the perilymph. You'll notice this area of the perilymph, if you want to think of it as above the cochlear duct, you can. This guy gets a great name. It's called the scala vestibuli. Remember what a vestibule is. That's the entrance to a house. So this is the first area where these sound waves go in. The sound waves will be transmitted through the perilymph, but then they will actually go right through the cochlear duct. They come out the other side of the cochlear duct into this area of the perilymph. This is the scala tympani. Just to finish up this process, these pressure waves, they have to go somewhere. They actually go back through the last little membrane here. Oval window up here, this one's a little rounder, so it's called the round window. These pressure waves go right into the tympanic cavity. They are dissipated. We won't hear them again. Back here, though, this is where the magic is happening. As these sound waves go through the cochlear duct, there is the actual part of the cochlear duct that does the transducing. Remember what we're doing. We're transducing sound waves into electrical signals. Now we can go back and look at it in detail. This part, the purpley line down here, this is called the spiral organ. We're going to go back now to this slide right here. Once again, let's make sure we're oriented. This right here is the cochlear duct. This is going to be perilymph, endolymph, more perilymph. You'll notice the cochlear duct, it's not just floating around inside the entire cochlea. It's actually stuck to one side. But that's not so important. But remember what happens. The sound waves come from the oval window in through the scala vestibuli, and then they're going to cross over from here through the cochlear duct, through the endolymph. They go through this right here. This is the spiral organ. We're going to go back and look at this in detail in a second. And then back out into the scala tympani and back out through that round window. You can see coming up here, though, this is going to be the cochlear branch of the vestibulocochlear nerve. So here, this is going to be where we actually transduce the signal. This box here will go right to the next slide. What we've got here is a couple of extra membranes. Once again, let's make sure we know where we are. All the way up here, this is showing you endolymph. Way up above the slide is going to be the other membrane. If I slide back one, you'll see this membrane here. It's called the vestibular membrane. So this guy separates out the scala vestibuli from the actual inside of the cochlear duct. Go back to here. Next slide. This is the only complex bit we've got to worry about. We've actually got a set of two membranes. This one down here is the basilar membrane. So this separates out the endolymph inside the cochlear duct with more perilymph. This is going to be the scala tympani. So sound waves are coming from up here through there. This is another membrane, and this is an odd one. This guy, they show it kind of clear, and it really is. It's this almost like firm jello-like membrane. It's called the tectorial membrane. Sound waves will go right through here, and this guy vibrates with the sound waves. Right under here, though, you will see these are hair cells. There's two sets. There's inner and outer. They do slightly different things, but we don't have to worry about it. What we do care is what's coming out of these guys. And these are the sensory hairs. What happens is the tectorial membrane vibrates. You vibrate these hairs. These hairs are lined with specialized channels. The channels open up when this whole thing vibrates. We will depolarize these cells. We will simply turn the vibrations here, sound vibrations, into impulses, i.e. action potentials. And we're done. Let's go ahead and review the entire process then. Let's go back to this slide here. We vibrate the last one of the stapes. We transduce from the oval window. We go from vibrations in air to vibrations in fluid. We're now in perilymph, the scala vestibuli. Travel down here, and at some point we're going to cross over through the cochlear duct. There is the spiral organ. That's going to be the bit we'll do next. Sound waves come out into the scala tympani, back down to the round window, and dissipate in the tympanic cavity. Back 1, 2, 3 slides. Scala vestibuli again. Sound waves are coming through here. They will vibrate the vestibular membrane into the cochlear duct. Blue is perilymph, pinky is endolymph. Back to the spiral organ. Through the tectorial membrane will vibrate these hair cells. Hair cells transduce the signal, send it off as action potentials. We'll send these vibrations now through the basilar membrane from inside the cochlear duct to the scala tympani and back out through the round window. There's one last thing I got to tidy up here. If we come up here, you'll see the physiology of hearing. There's really only two things we have to worry about here: intensity of sound and the frequency. Let's do the intensity because it's real easy. Simply says the louder the sound, the more you distort those hair cells. The more they vibrate, more action potentials they send. The frequency is a little bit more complex. The frequency tells you if the note is high or low, and this is going to be interpreted as the pitch of sound. We're going to go to this slide here, and this is another one we've cheated. We've now taken that curved up cochlea and we have simply stretched it out. We've got to do this just to see what's going on. Over here, this is a high frequency sound coming through the oval window into the scala vestibuli, through the cochlear duct, back out through here. What happens is different frequency of sounds vibrates different parts along this cochlear duct and the spiral organ. High frequency sounds vibrate close to the oval window. Medium frequency sounds vibrate further along. Low frequency sounds vibrate all the way at the end. Remember, this is the little tip here. This is called the helicotrema. So different hair cells along here simply interpret these areas of vibrations as different pitches of the sound. What about the steps of the auditory pathway? Well, I think we can just look at the very basics of there. Of course, this goes through the thalamus, goes to the primary auditory complex, goes through the cochlear branch, which joins up to form our vestibulocochlear nerve. Back through some of these processing nucleuses, but they're not so important. We'll take a break there, and then we'll move on to talking about the equilibrium.